Welcome to the Badlands, a place I don't think I or anyone I'm going to talk to expected to be. My name is Jared, and for the last 9 months, I've been an out-of-work ad agency senior suit. My last role was the Regional Client Service Director at Grey Singapore, delivering work around Southeast Asia and India. I returned to London last year, fully imagining I'd been in another agency fairly quickly, as had been the case over the last 2 decades, but not so much this time. So I found myself wandering the Badlands. In these 9 months, I've noticed a few odd things in our industry, and I've also noticed a surprising amount of ex-colleagues and clients all in a similar position to me. So I thought it might be helpful and maybe interesting to talk to some of these people, to see how they're doing, discover their experiences, understand what they're looking for, and maybe shine a light on them and their talents, but most importantly, check in with them, as it's a lonely experience being in the Badlands. So please welcome David Brewerton. David was part of a client team that I used to work with a few years ago now. He's a great guy who knows his stuff, but he's currently in the Badlands. So David, welcome. How are you? Firstly, thank you for doing this, mate. Appreciate it. And how are you?
No problem, Jared. Thanks for having me on. Feeling pretty good today. My voice is a little bit worse for wear. I had a bit of a late one last night. Marketing Academy event that was going on at the Design Museum. But no, feeling good. Sun's shining, so close to the weekend, so feeling good today.
Nice. Well, look, I really do appreciate you doing this. It's hard to put these things out there and have these conversations, but I think they're really they're warranted at the moment. And we've known each other a long time, and I'm noticing a lot of people that I've known throughout my career in a similar sort of position. So I wanted to have a chat with them. So why don't you, as we're all looking for jobs at the moment, and that's going to be the theme of my conversations with these people, why don't you give people who are listening, like there's lots of people listening, honestly, give them the 30-second David Brewerton career summary.
Yeah, sure. So last 18 months or so, I spent at Metro Bank Financial Services. I was head of marketing and customer communications there. Pretty broad role. Really enjoyed my time there, but it came to a bit of an abrupt end in February. Before that, I spent 10 years at Tesco Mobile. Started off in digital positions, but worked my way through. Added on CRM and ended up as the lead for acquisition marketing for them, which was a pretty broad role. Covered the kind of full marketing mix, full marketing funnel, but focused on acquisition. So I'd say I've got an eclectic mix of different things, but covered through telco and financial services mostly.
Nice. You've always been client side, haven't you? You've never made the agency side. You've always been client side.
Absolutely not. No, I can't think of anything worse, Jared. How you guys do it is beyond me.
Oh, well, could have a separate podcast about that. So what happened at your last company, the last place you're at? How come you're in the Badlands?
Yes, as I said, I was made redundant on the 8th of February this year.
Right.
It's an interesting process. I mean, ultimately, the bank was in a well documented. It was in all the national press. It was all over online. It was in a lot of financial difficulty towards the back end of last year, refinancing packages, etc. And that led to mass redundancies across the business ultimately. So my role was one of about 25% of the entire business that was made redundant in February, which was a challenging time for all involved. But you know, these things happen, right? So
and it's the classic tale as old as time, where a company or an organization not doing well, let's stop telling people about ourselves. It just seems insane, right? It's just the strangest thing. Let's cut that. Well, I don't know. Anyway, again, a separate podcast about that. So February, it's a couple of months now. You've been in the Badlands, which is shorter than me, which I'm happy for. And it feels like last year was a nightmare. This year seems to have picked up a little bit. But how's your search experience been going? Like, how's your overall from that point when you knew you were going to be looking for something new to today? Like, what have you been experiencing? Both the good and the bad. And have you noticed anything compared to when you've moved previously or you've job hunted in the past? Like, have you noticed any differences?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a real mixed bag. I mean, I've been redundant now for 3 months, but because I knew it was coming, I was kind of in process of looking before then. Naturally, it's been a real it's been a real mixed bag. It started off quite positively for me. I think maybe coming in cold to the market, I was kind of fresh meat, so to speak, and so there's quite a lot of interest around me, potentially matching me to different roles and outcomes, and recruits have shown a lot of interest, which naturally kind of wanes off once you've
Yeah.
spoken to everybody and once you've covered every position that's available at that time. I mean, the overriding really really good thing is people that you end up meeting and speaking to, like yourself, and a lot of other people. That all the joy that I've had in my search today has been through my network, essentially people that
Right.
I've either been connected to already in some way or another. I've already mentioned the Marketing Academy, and the people that I've been connected to there have been really, really helpful. A lot of people have been really, really helpful. Other people in similar situations to me have been really helpful as well, bouncing ideas off of. But overall, it's kind of just generosity and kindness, I guess, of people that you know and you're connected to or worked with in the past and recommended things, for you. I guess from a bad perspective, it's you can make it a full-time job if you
Yeah.
wanted to. I
Yeah.
mean, I have sat at my at my I said to you the other day, didn't I? I built a garden office in my office over the last year or so, and then as soon as it's finished, I was I was made redundant, and
So
so
it's
I've
now
sat.
it's so now it's a golf simulator. Yeah.
I wish,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm still working on that. So yeah, you can sit at your laptop all day, looking through, but it's not helpful for anyone. It becomes incredibly frustrating at times. You invest an awful lot of time into different processes, and even just an application sometimes can take an awful lot of your time
Yeah.
and mental headspace. And so, yeah, I fact, sometimes it can all just get a bit on top of you, and there's a lot of rejection involved. Whether it's just getting an immediate no, not now, you're not suitable. There's better people suited to this role, or if it's in the worst case scenario, you get right to the end of a process and then it's a no for whatever reason. You have to deal with a lot of rejection over that time. So yeah, I find that can be tough at times.
No, 100%. Yeah, I think you mentioned there the kind of instant no's, which are, I guess, this new phenomenon. It's the thing that I had just part of my personal kind of, well, this is so different to what I'd experienced over the last 20 years whenever I'd moved agencies, kind of applying to something and within minutes getting an email back going, sorry, no. And I think, well, how, who's read it that fast or hadn't had a but it's this automated process now of analyzing resumes and CVs for keywords and stuff. And I understand, there's a volume thing, and I'm sure you've noticed on if you ever go down the LinkedIn application route and you see how you compare to the other 600 people that have applied to this thing. And I think, well, just the law of statistics, there's got to be 60 brilliant people. So I don't want to look, to be honest. It's soul destroying. And when you get those immediate kind of auto responses going, we don't think you're right. I'm like, having done hiring myself for my teams in the past, it's the people that come in. And so I think it's one of the things that I've really noticed is it's become quite automated and
Yeah,
quite
sure. I
in-house
think
here. And I'm going to have a conversation in the coming weeks with some folk about that kind of recruitment process, the in-house process, the kind of talent teams, and I don't know. I'm not too sure, and I guess I'm biased because I'm on the outside, but I am not seeing it working yet. So, are you avoiding the LinkedIn kind of blind? Ooh, that job title looks like my last job title. I'll apply for it. Are you avoiding that?
yeah. I mean, sometimes you get lured in, depending on what the
Yeah,
opportunity is or what the brand is. From my perspective, I think sometimes it's a really great opportunity, or it looks like a great opportunity. You throw your hat in the ring, so to speak. I think LinkedIn is a great tool, but it can also be a bit of a mind fuck as well, because if you pay for the premium stuff, or even if you don't, I think it tells you it tells you whether you're a top applicant or not, or how you rank against other applicants, like you said, and it's all based on the kind of skills that you've arbitrarily put into the system anyway. So
yeah,
technically you could game that system, but even without kind of gaming that system, I mean, there's no real benefit to doing that at all. but because you've got X, Y, Z skills on your profile, LinkedIn tells you you'd be a top applicant for the role, and almost kind of gets your hopes up for you. Like,
Yeah.
thinks, yeah, actually, yeah, I'd be good. I am a top applicant here. And, you've got no idea who's applied for those roles.
And
And like you
then
say,
the auto
if it's that,
email decimates that feeling.
yeah, straight away. Yeah, straight away. So, yeah, it can be a bit of a roller coaster, but I mean, I still do apply, make applications through LinkedIn. I guess my experience has been, if that's all you do, if you just send the application in, it's almost always, you get nothing back. On the other occasion, you will do. So I've certainly taken to either following up with hiring managers or trying to reach out to someone who might be the hiring manager in the business or someone senior in the business, and trying to get your name in front of them and your profile in front of them some way. That's the only joy that I've had, really.
Well, look, I think I couldn't agree more. I've gone through the similar arc throughout this time period of, you go through well, that job there is exactly what I do. I'll apply for it. They'll welcome me in tomorrow. They'll probably want me to start tomorrow based on what I'm reading here. And then you find out you're one of 9,000 people applying for it. So I agree. I think it's fundamentally a people business, and I think it's so easy to forget that. And there are people. There are people at the other end of these CVs and resumes and cover letters that are sat at home with their partners, their friends, their colleagues, their lovers, whoever, and just trying to remember that it's a people business. And the creative industry and the ad industry that I work in and the marketing side of things that you work in, it's people. It's nothing else. We don't sell technology. We don't sell anything. We sell people time, right? We ask people to solve these problems that brands have, and agencies try and help solve them. And it's, I think I've noticed it feels less human to me at the moment, and it's a big thing that is really annoying me, which is why I wanted to have conversations with humans and try and get some of their stories out there. So again, I appreciate that. In terms of you mentioned you've got your own network of things, but are you working with recruiters? Do you have some recruiters that are kind of helping you still, or are you just solo and you're just trying to manage it yourself?
Yeah, to varying degrees. I think it's a classic case of right now the way the market is that it's not really a game for the people that are searching for roles at the moment. Like headhunters and recruiters can be
No, I
very,
don't know
very
how they're
specific.
surviving. I don't know how they're surviving at the minute. I see a lot of jobs posted with no third party recruiters allowed, like
Yeah,
actively saying, don't, nobody who knows what they're doing, come and talk to us about anybody. It's
yeah,
like a
yeah.
weird, honestly, it's such a strange thing. I genuinely don't know how they're surviving at the minute.
I think there's a lot of that, and I think the ones that are still doing a job as a resource for brands and businesses. I think they want to show their value, and they're in a luxury position right now where there's a lot of a lot of talent out there, a lot of people out there. So whereas before they might have had to be a little bit broader or more broad in their approach, and maybe someone who's got relevant skills but in a different category, different industry, or might have done it in B2B but not B2C, for example, and then they would have maybe made that argument to that candidate a little bit more. I think now they don't need to, and so it's very much a case of it's easier and quicker. That's how they make the money. That's how they appear to be doing their job much, much better. I think most of the time, it's probably unfair to say all of the time, but a lot of the time, they want a square peg in a square hole because it's how they
Yeah.
pay their bills at the end of the day. So I think that's frustrating from my point of view. So
Yeah. Totally.
ideally I would like to look at categories that I've not been in before, just to broaden my horizons a bit. But I think the opportunity to run towards something really, really ideal, or what's really top of the list for me, is going to be harder at this moment in time than it might have been, I don't know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whenever it was kind of
Yeah, I agree. I think for whatever reason, and I'm sure there are millions of podcasts that are discussing the state of the nation at the moment, but it's certainly adding to it, right?
yeah,
Our ability, I'm 23 years in, you're in your second decade. You'd think with all that experience, you could pivot to a different sector, a different industry, take across those transferable skills, and you can do it, but it's a harder process. I know there
well,
are. coaches out there that are kind of helping doing that, and I'm definitely going to be having a conversation with one of those on a future episode to kind of help people understand that it's something you can do, but it's certainly a time-consuming thing, and it's not an instant thing. And I guess with, life pressures that we all have, mortgages and car payments and children and things, the immediacy of finding a new job is a reality, and it's I think it's something I'm also looking into myself. Like, how do you set yourself up for the next 25 years? Because you don't want to be doing this again in 5 years, 10 years time when you're getting older and older. Because I think age comes into it, and I've certainly seen that in my industry, in the ad industry. But I'll save that for a slightly different project. So just on your kind of process of applying for things, like you've mentioned before, it's full time and it's pretty stressful. So how's your mental health? Like, how do you structure your week to keep yourself sane? Because, like you say, it's a full time job looking for a job, and I don't think people appreciate that sometimes. So how are you structuring your week to keep yourself sane?
Yeah, I mean, so mental health is pretty good mostly. I'm pretty resilient most of the time, but it's I do have low points as well. A couple of weeks ago I had a really low point, and they
Right.
tend to be aligned to when in my case, they tend to be aligned to when I've put a lot of investment into something. I almost feel like I'm within touching distance, and then don't quite get the cigar at the end.
Yeah.
And so that can be really, it really kind of knocks your confidence. It really, really knocks your, just self-belief in the process and and your value as well. Particularly when you feel, if you get into the last two or three in a process, it's a little bit of a flip of a coin because it depends who's interviewing you. It depends. It could depend on very specific things, but sometimes it's hard to tell yourself that, when you've just been given bad news and you've put a lot of time and effort into presentations and 3, 4, 5 interviews, travel maybe. And that's on top of just like the job search on the day to day. So I think those have been my real low points, but generally try and stay as active as I can, essentially. Particularly now the sun starts shining again, it's a lot easier to get out, gym, I've been playing a bit of golf here and there, but I think I try and dedicate a bit of time each day to the job hunt. Whether that's looking for new positions or applying for new positions or having conversations with different people, and then kind of leaving it alone, because as I said already, you could sit at your desk all day.
You drive yourself nuts.
You wouldn't get anywhere. You wouldn't get anywhere anyway. You're not really doing yourselves any favors. So, I just try and structure the day a little bit better. I'm lucky. I've got 2 kids, so they get me up and out of bed in the morning and do the school run, and so there is structure to my day, just because everyone else in the family has to get on with their lives. So that's been helpful as well, for sure.
No, I think the reason I asked about mental health, and it's great that you admit that it does take a toll, and I had noticed it as well. Like, I don't mind, the day-to-day is tasks. So you deal with those tasks, and we're brilliant at doing those tasks given our careers and things. But then, I think the loneliness comes into it whenever I've gone through the process like you, a couple of interviews, a couple I've thought, I didn't do well there, and then somewhere I thought, I smashed that. I can't believe I'll be working there, because you have to have a bit of confidence about it. And then when it didn't work out, it sent me into a bit of a downward spiral for a couple of days. Luckily, my 4-year-old son then comes home and kicks my ass and makes me do amazing things with him. But I think the loneliness of dealing with some of this is a big thing that I don't think is being spoken about. So I appreciate you mentioning that. I think in relation to that, is there any heroes, anybody you want to shout out and give big thanks to? Because I know for me, it's my wife. She's been incredible throughout this entire process, and she comes home and she's like, "Don't worry about it. There's tomorrow." So I know everyone has those people, but is there anyone you'd like to shout out, David?
Yeah, I mean, same as you. I mean, the people you spend most time with, right? They're the ones that get the brunt end of the downs and the lows. And so, my wife's been a big pillar of support, and same as you, kids, quickly put a smile on your face, even in the darkest of moments. So they've been a big help for me. I mean, it is incredible. Loneliness. You mentioned loneliness. A former colleague of mine mentioned that word. He's in a similar position, and I never really thought about it as being lonely until he said, but it is incredibly lonely, because nobody can understand exactly how you feel at any given time, and you spend a lot of time on your own,
Yeah.
and you feel like you're in the process alone. There's a lot. It feels like a lot of responsibility associated to that. So having people actually that are in, besides friends and family, going for. I'm actually going for a beer with a friend after this podcast recording. Just having people that you can have a chat with, and
I won't tell people that. I won't tell people it's 11 o'clock in the morning, David.
yeah, beer and lunch is fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah, having people that you can just have a chat with, that you can just say how you're feeling to, and open up to, but also people that are in a similar situation. So I found great solace and comfort in people that are going through the same thing as me, because they're the only ones that really know how I'm feeling at the moment and at any
Yeah,
given
no,
time.
and almost no, 100%. And for me, a big part of this doing these chats, it's for that reason, because you go, well, is this just me? Have I been blacklisted? And it's clearly not the case, right?
Yeah.
There are hundreds and thousands of people like us from our industries who've been, hardworking throughout their entire careers, and then for one reason or another find themselves on the other side now. And I think it's when you have conversations with others who are in a similar position, it does give you a little bit of, oh, thank God, right? No. So you can then reset yourself and go again, because it's so easy just to kind of go into a hole thinking, oh, Christ, I can't figure this out. But then honestly, some of the people I'm seeing out there, I'm like, well, that guy's amazing. I've worked with him, or that she's brilliant as a senior account director. I can't believe she's not snap. There's a lot of that. So I think
Absolutely.
I agree. It's super useful talking to others that are in this position, which is, I guess, is what my chats are going to be hopefully about, to kind of to deal with some of that. So look, I know you've got to go for a drink and a beer, so I'll start to wrap this up, buddy. I guess finally then, so if we were, the aim of this is obviously to have these conversations and check in with people, but ultimately I want these things to get in front of, the internal recruiters and the internal talent teams at, client side and agency side. So from your point of view, from an ideal role point of view or a sector, how do you want people to leave thinking, right, David might be worth getting in touch with because he loves X, Y, and Z. So
Yeah.
what would your ideal be?
I mean, so I say this quite a lot you have conversations with recruiters and headhunters quite a lot, and I say the same thing, is that we work in a world where more often than not, 9 times out of 10, the businesses that we operate within, they're there to make money. They're big commercial operations, and there's no escaping from that. I'm comfortable with that. I'm not against that. But somewhere actually where there's a little bit more substance to it than that it would be the ideal thing for me. So it's not necessarily a category. I'd love to work in a sports environment or an entertainment environment, but for the same reason, really, because purpose for me doesn't have to be saving the planet. It doesn't have to be changing the world. It can be as simple as bringing like entertainment and joy to people. I had a conversation a while back with a well-known, what's the right word, kind of destination, entertainment destination provider, and that really interested me, because essentially they're there to make money, but their product is making people happy and people having good experiences. Right. That is, really, really what would float my boat. Something that's got a little bit more substance to it, I guess, than purely the commercial aspect, which we can't hide from. So, if anyone's got a job at PGA or NBA,
Well, you want to be playing on the PGA, or you just want to work there?
I wish I was.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't be having this chat if you could play on the PGA.
Exactly.
No, look, well, that's great, and I agree. I think you get to stages in your career where your passion for things in life is an added value, right? If you can bring your career skills that you've developed through 20 years of doing X, Y, and Z, not necessarily in particular industries that you love, but you love doing the job of promotion and marketing, and then if you can start applying that to areas in life that you love or you recognize are important, then I mean, that's a huge thing. And I think as we all get older, I think we all look for that a little bit more. So, look, if there's any, if the PGA guys need a guy in the UK, give us a shout. So, look, finally, David, we'll wrap this up so you can go for your beer. have sweatpants become your day to day, or are you keeping an element of dignity about your proceedings?
Well, yeah, not much dignity. You'd be lucky if you catch me in any kind of pants, to be honest with
There
you.
you
But
go. I mean, why wouldn't you hire David? Why wouldn't you hire? Fair
no,
enough.
seriously, as I said, like school run keeps me
Yeah,
in
yeah.
a routine, so I have to get dressed every
It's
day.
frowned upon,
But
isn't it? It's frowned
it is
upon the
frowned
school run
upon.
with
Yeah,
no pants on.
school run with no clothes on is not a good look. But no,
Got it.
I think to be honest, I think like COVID changed things quite a lot. Anyway, a lot more casual approach to work. The last
Yeah,
place I worked, there was someone that I won't name any name, but routinely showed up to meetings with all levels of seniority across the business wearing an hoodie or an hoodie, I don't know how you pronounce it properly. But so I think that's gone out the window anyway, right? We all look
yeah,
a bit less smart than we used to.
yeah. I won't mention my ex-boss who used to turn up to meetings on Teams in her bed. We'll leave that for another session. Well, look, David, I can't thank you enough, mate. Thank you for sharing your
Problem,
experience.
thank
Anyone
you.
listening to this, anyone from my network or David's network, let's try and get this conversation in front of people that we think might be able to help David out and get him out of the Badlands. Is available immediately, short of a golf game, and is keen to get cracking. So follow him on LinkedIn for his weekly marketing roundup, which I know he enjoys doing and is causing some furore on LinkedIn. So, David, thank you so much, buddy. Have a great day and have a great weekend. And all the best, mate. Speak to you soon.
That's fine. Thanks, Jared. Appreciate it.
No worries, buddy. Thank you.